The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the scent of rain and something far more unsettling. The sky was overcast, the clouds heavy, as if the earth itself mourned the passing of time. He stood alone at the cemetery, his heart weighed down by 5 years of grief. His eyes, tired and red from endless nights of missing her, scanned the cold stone before him. It was the grave of the woman he loved. A woman who was no longer there. His fingers trembled as they brushed over the engraved letters on the tombstone. Anna Williams? She had been everything to him, his best friend, his love, his partner. He remembered her smile, the way it would light up the darkest room. Her laughter still echoed in his mind, despite the years that had passed. But that was all it was now. Memories, moments frozen in time. Frozen forever, just like her, the tears that had once come so freely had dried up, leaving only a dull ache. Deep in his chest, he hadn't visited her grave in months. It was hard to face it, the finality of it all. Yet something today was different. Something in him told him to come here. Maybe it was the memories that pulled him back, or maybe it was the guilt? He wasn't sure. All he knew was that he needed to say goodbye. He looked around as if expecting someone to be watching him. But the cemetery was empty quiet, save for the rustle of leaves in the trees. He took a deep breath, gathering the strength to speak. The words that had been heavy on his heart for so long. "I've missed you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The wind seemed to carry his words as if the earth itself was listening. His heart tightened as he continued. "I'm sorry. I couldn't save you. I didn't know how." His hands clenched into fists, the weight of his words. Sinking deeper, he had never been able to let go. He never truly believed she was gone. There were times in the quietest moments of the night when he could swear he still felt her presence. Sometimes he would wake up to find her side of the bed undisturbed, the sheets still warm. He'd stretch out his hand, praying that she would be there, next to him. But every time he was met with nothing but emptiness. He had hoped. He had waited for some sign, some miracle that would bring her back. But nothing ever came. The wind howled now, growing stronger, as if it was trying to pull him away from the grave. He could feel a chill creeping into his bones, though the weather hadn't changed. It was as though something was wrong, something he couldn't explain. His eyes moved from the grave to the surrounding trees, but the world remained still, as if frozen in place. There was no one here, no one but him. Suddenly, a faint sound interrupted his thoughts. It was soft at first, like the flutter of wings in the distance. But as it grew louder, it became clearer. It was the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate. His heart skipped a beat. He turned, expecting to see someone, a mourner, perhaps, or a worker tending to the graves. But no one was there. He shook his head. "It must be my mind playing tricks on me." The wind picked up again, swirling around him, tugging at his clothes and pulling at his hair. His breath quickened, and a strange feeling washed over him. There was something else here. Something he couldn't explain. He turned back to the grave, feeling the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. His gaze fell on Anna's name once more, and for a brief moment, he could have sworn the earth beneath him shuddered. A low, distant rumble echoed through the ground. It was subtle, but it was there. It wasn't thunder, he knew that. The storm hadn't reached this place. It was something else. His eyes narrowed, confusion mixing with fear. He took a step back. The ground beneath his feet trembled again, this time more violently. What the hell is going on? Without thinking, he reached out and steadied himself against the stone tombstone. The shaking stopped, as suddenly as it had started. For a moment, everything was still again. His breath came in short, quick bursts, but he couldn't seem to calm himself. Then, as he turned to leave, the most unexpected thing happened. A gentle touch, a soft, familiar hand landed on his shoulder. He froze. His heart stopped in his chest. He felt the warmth of it, the unmistakable pressure of fingers wrapped around the fabric of his jacket. The hand was there, on his shoulder. Slowly, almost afraid to turn around, he took a deep breath and forced himself to face the source of the touch. There, standing before him, was Anna, alive. Her eyes were wide, but not with fear. They were filled with something else. Something he couldn't quite place. She was there, in front of him, real, not a dream. Not a ghost. The woman he had buried, the woman he had mourned, was standing in front of him, smiling. This beginning introduces an eerie sense of suspense while keeping things simple. The scene is set, and the tension builds as the character starts to question what he's experiencing. The unexpected touch at the end sets up a powerful hook that will keep your audience engaged. His breath caught in his throat. The ground had just trembled beneath his feet, the air thick with an unnatural chill, and yet, nothing could have prepared him for what came next. A soft, warm sensation spread over his shoulder like a whisper of touch. It wasn't a gust of wind, it wasn't a trick of the light. This was real. It felt like ... her. His mind raced. The logical part of him screaming that it couldn't be possible, that he must be imagining it. But deep down, something in him refused to believe it. Slowly his body went rigid. He stood there for a moment, frozen, unable to move. The world around him seemed to pause as if holding its breath, waiting for him to turn and face the impossible. His hand twitched, instinctively reaching toward the spot where he felt the touch. But before he could react, he heard a familiar voice, soft, but unmistakably hers. "Don't be afraid," she said. The voice was calm, serene, like a dream he had long forgotten. It echoed in his mind, a memory coming to life. For a moment, it was as if time itself had stopped. He didn't want to turn around. He didn't want to face the truth of what he was feeling, of what his mind had already told him was impossible. But despite the whirlwind of thoughts crashing inside him, his body moved on its own accord. He turned. There she was, Anna, standing in front of him, her figure bathed in the soft, gray light of the overcast sky. The wind played with her hair, lifting it gently as she smiled, the same smile that had once made him feel invincible. His heart thudded painfully in his chest, every beat a loud reminder that this was not a dream, this was real. Her appearance had changed. She looked ... different. Her skin had an ethereal glow to it, as if she was made of something other than flesh and bone. Her eyes, once full of warmth and light, now shimmered with an otherworldly gleam. They were like pools of deep space, endless and infinite. But despite the changes, despite the unfamiliar aura surrounding her, he knew it was her. He would know her anywhere. For a long, unbearable moment, neither of them spoke. He couldn't find the words. His mind was too chaotic, too torn between disbelief and the raw, overwhelming joy of seeing her again. "Anna?" His voice came out as little more than a hoarse whisper, barely audible in the stillness. He stepped forward, his legs trembling beneath him. "Is it really you?" She nodded, her expression soft and patient. There was a sadness in her eyes, a deep, unfathomable sadness that only seemed to deepen the mystery of her return. "It's me," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "But I'm not who I was." Her words hit him like a wave, and for a second he felt dizzy. His heart raced, pumping in his ears. He wanted to believe this was some kind of miracle, some strange twist of fate, but the logical part of him couldn't dismiss the changes he saw in her. She wasn't the same. She wasn't just alive. She was something more, something different. "I don't understand," he said, his voice trembling with a mix of confusion and fear. How are you here? You were ... gone? You were gone, Anna. I saw you. I buried you." Anna's gaze softened, and she stepped closer to him, her feet barely making a sound on the ground. She reached out, her cool fingers brushing against his trembling hand. The touch was reassuring, as if she were trying to ground him, to calm the storm inside him. "I know this is hard to believe," she said quietly. "But what happened to me ... it's not something I can explain easily. I wasn't just taken from you, I was ... changed." Her words hung in the air, each one heavy with a weight he couldn't yet understand. She wasn't just speaking of being brought back from the dead. There was something deeper, something far more unsettling in her words. Her presence now felt like an unexplainable enigma, an event that bent the very laws of nature. "I was taken by them," she continued, her voice distant now, as if she were reliving something painful. "An alien race. They Save me, but in doing so they changed me. My body was altered, my mind reshaped. I'm not just Anna anymore, not in the way you remember me. He felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The words she spoke were so impossible, so beyond anything he could grasp. His mind raced, his thoughts colliding. An alien race, saved by aliens. Was this a cruel joke, a hallucination brought on by grief and longing? But looking into her eyes, the same eyes he had loved for so long, he couldn't deny it. She was real, but she wasn't the same. And that realization was far more terrifying than the prospect of her being lost forever. How can this be? Why didn't you come back sooner? He asked, the words slipping out before he could stop them. He needed answers, needed to make sense of what was happening. But his heart already knew that there were no simple answers to this. I couldn't, Anna replied, her voice now thick with regret. I didn't remember ... at first. But now I'm here and we don't have much time. His pulse quickened. Time? What do you mean? Anna's gaze turned serious, her face hardening with urgency. They know I'm here, and they will come for me. For us? He stepped back, his heart pounding in his chest. The chill that had spread through him earlier was back, stronger now. There was something coming, something that had been awakened with her return. And it wasn't just a question of surviving, it was a race against time to uncover the truth. Of her resurrection before it was too late. This unique take on the scene emphasizes mystery, emotion, and the growing tension between what seems impossible and what might be the beginning of an even greater, unknown danger. The suspense and urgency set the tone for what's to come. The air between them grew thick with an unspoken tension. Anna's eyes, once so full of warmth, now seemed as if they held secrets too dangerous to reveal. He could see the weight of her words in the way her shoulders tensed, her body holding back something she clearly wanted to say, yet couldn't. It was almost as if she was afraid of telling him too much too soon. He swallowed hard, trying to calm the storm of thoughts that swirled in his mind. Anna, what do you mean? You said you were changed. But changed how? What happened to you? His voice was a mix of desperation and disbelief. She took a step back, her eyes closing briefly as if gathering strength from some hidden place. When she opened them again, there was a glimmer of something far beyond human understanding in their depths. I wasn't just brought back from the dead, she began, her voice barely a whisper. I was chosen. Chosen for something I never asked for, something far beyond anything I ever could have imagined. He stared at her, the words slowly sinking in, but the concept was still too foreign to him. He tried to speak, but no words came out. He simply nodded, urging her to continue, to tell him everything. They came from a world far from Earth, she said, her gaze distant as if she was reliving something traumatic. A race of beings who are not like us, not like anything you've ever seen before. They are ancient, and they have been watching us for centuries, studying us, guiding us, but they never interfered until now, until me. He listened, his heart pounding in his chest. He had heard stories of alien sci-fi novels, movies, conspiracy theories, but nothing could have prepared him for this. Her words sounded like a script from a movie, but the look in her eyes, the fear she couldn't hide, told him that this was real. This was happening. I was dying, she continued, her voice breaking for the first time. My body was failing, but they gave me a choice. They offered to save me, not with medicine, not with technology, but with something far more dangerous. Something they called the awakening. His mind raced as she spoke. The awakening? What does that mean? Anna hesitated for a moment, glancing down at the ground before looking back up at him. It means they transformed me, physically, mentally. They rewrote who I was. They made me something more, but at a cost. I lost myself in the process. I wasn't just resurrected. I became part of them. The shock hit him like a cold wave. His breath caught in his throat. So you're not ... human anymore? The words felt foreign coming from his mouth, but they were the only ones that made sense. The idea was too much for his mind to fully comprehend, but he needed to know. He needed to understand who or what she had become. Her face softened. her expression pained. No, I'm not entirely human anymore. But I'm still me. I still remember you, and I still love you. But I am different now. He stared at her, his heart torn between wanting to hold her and the fear that was creeping into his veins. His mind flashed back to the woman he had known, the woman he had loved. The woman who was gone. And now, standing before him, was someone who seemed to wear her skin, but was she really her? "Why didn't you come back sooner?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Why didn't you tell me? We could have figured this out together?" She took another step forward, her eyes softening with regret. I didn't remember at first, not right away. The transformation took time. It changed everything, my memories, my body, even the way I think. But now I understand, I can feel them, watching me. They want me back, they want to take me again. His stomach churned at the words. He wanted to believe her, to hold onto the woman he once knew, but a small voice in his mind kept asking, what if this isn't her? What if the woman he loved is truly gone? Who are they, Anna? He whispered, his voice barely audible. They are the Echelon. She said as if the words themselves were dangerous to speak. They are not just aliens. They are an ancient collective of sentient beings spread across multiple galaxies. And they have plans for us, plans we don't fully understand yet. I was chosen to be a part of their next stage. A stage where humanity will be tested. His heart sank as the weight of her words settled in. Tested? What does that mean? She looked at him, her eyes filled with a sadness that seemed to reach beyond anything human. It means we're not the only ones they've been watching. There are others like me who have been altered, who have been chosen. And we are all part of a plan that we can't even begin to comprehend. He felt the ground shift beneath him, as if the very world they stood on was starting to tilt. The sense of reality of what he knew to be true was slowly slipping away, replaced by the terrifying unknown. He had loved her, he still loved her, but the truth was growing clearer, and it was far darker than he had ever imagined. Anna wasn't just back from the dead, she was something else. And whatever that something else was, it was a force far beyond their control. In this version, the truth is revealed in a way that enhances the mystery and danger surrounding Anna's resurrection, raising the stakes significantly. The alien involvement, her transformation, and the threat of something larger create an intense build-up for the rest of the story. The ground beneath his feet felt unstable, like a cliff crumbling into the unknown. His heart was racing, but his thoughts were slower, weighed down by the overwhelming truth Anna had just revealed. The woman he loved was no longer fully human. She was something else, something alien. And the more he tried to grasp the reality of the situation, the further away it seemed to slip from his understanding. They stood there, facing each other as the wind carried an eerie chill that wasn't natural. It didn't feel like just the weather, it felt like something was coming, something they couldn't outrun. Anna's words echoed in his mind. They are watching us. They want me back. The air between them was thick with the unspoken tension of the truth they now shared, but before he could say anything more, the silence was shattered by the sound of distant engines that didn't belong to any vehicle he recognized. The ground beneath his feet vibrated with the hum of something massive, something that could only mean one thing. They were here. Anna turned to him, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and regret. "We don't have much time," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They found us." He glanced over his shoulder, his instincts screaming at him to run, but there was no place to hide. The cemetery was too open, the trees too sparse. He could feel them, whoever they were, closing in on them, their presence far too close for comfort. "Who are they?" His voice was barely a whisper, panic creeping into his chest. "What do they want from you?" She shook her head as if the words themselves were too painful to say. "It's not just me they want. They want all of us, every changed one. Every person who has been touched by the Echelon." Her eyes locked onto his, and for a moment there was a depth of sadness there, something that made him feel as though he was looking into a past he would never be able to reach again. "They see us as tools, weapons. They think we can be controlled." He stepped closer, his mind spinning with too many questions, too many doubts. You're not just a tool to them. You're not— I'm not the same, she interrupted, her voice hard with a truth that cut deep. I was changed for a reason, and now there are consequences. We are the consequences. Her words hit him like a slap, and for the first time, he saw the weight of what she carried. She wasn't just dealing with the confusion of resurrection, she was living in a war she hadn't chosen. A war she had been thrust into by forces far greater than herself. Suddenly, a bright light split the sky. The hum of the engines grew louder, and the shadows of enormous ships appeared in the distance, their shapes dark against the gray sky. They moved in slow arcs as if circling their prey. His breath caught in his throat. There was no escaping. They've found us, Anna said, her voice barely audible. And they won't stop until they have me. Or worse, until they take all of us. The dread that filled his chest began to shift into something else, something colder. It was the fear of losing her to something far worse than death. She wasn't just a woman anymore. She was a living weapon, a pawn in a much larger game. And now he was caught in the middle of it. Where do we go? He asked, the urgency in his voice clear. Anna's eyes flickered for a moment, her mind clearly racing through the same thoughts. There's a place, a hidden location, far from here. Only a few of us know about it, but it's the last chance we have to survive. If we can make it there, we might be able to get ahead of them. He nodded, understanding the gravity of what she was saying. The place she spoke of was their only hope, and yet, with every passing second, he could feel the world closing in on them, squeezing tighter and tighter, before he could say anything more. Anna grabbed his arm, her grip stronger than he expected. We need to move, now. His legs were slow to respond, as if his body didn't quite know what was happening, but he could see the fear in her eyes. The knowledge that, if they didn't leave now, they wouldn't have another chance. His own fear melted into action. There was no more time for hesitation. They moved quickly, their feet pounding the earth as they sprinted away from the cemetery, toward an unknown future that seemed darker with every step they took. Behind them, the eerie hum of the alien ships grew louder, closer. Every time he looked over his shoulder, the shadows seemed to stretch further, looming over them like a predator stalking its prey. The chase had begun. But this wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a battle for something much bigger than either of them could comprehend. The forces they were running from weren't just interested in her. They were interested in everything she represented. And as they ran, he realized the horrifying truth. Whatever Anna had become, it wasn't just her life that was in danger. It was all of humanity. This part intensifies the conflict, deepening the stakes and throwing the characters into a high-stakes chase. The discovery that their lives are interconnected with something far more significant than just personal survival gives a new dimension to the danger they face. The urgency and suspense build as they race toward an uncertain future. The ground beneath them trembled with the roar of the alien ships above. The low hum of their engines was constant now, an unrelenting pulse that seemed to sink into his bones. He didn't need to look up to know they were there, circling like vultures, waiting for their moment to strike. Their shadows loomed larger with each passing second, darkening the already gray sky. The world felt like it was shrinking, closing in around him. Every breath felt heavier. Anna's grip tightened on his hand, her fingers nearly digging into his skin as if she too could feel the weight of what was happening. She was faster than he was, her movements sharper, more calculated. He struggled to keep up with her, but he couldn't ignore the raw urgency in her every step. She knew where they had to go, and it was the only thing keeping them moving. Faster, she urged, her voice clipped, almost harsh with the urgency of the situation. His lungs burned, his body screaming in protest, but he pushed forward. There was no time to rest. There was no time to think. Only to run. Behind them, the hum of the alien ships grew louder, the sound vibrating through the air as they descended closer. Their shape was unlike anything he had seen before, sleek, black, and strangely organic, as though they had grown rather than been built. They were here for one purpose, Anna, but now they were after both of them. And whatever they were capable of, he wasn't sure he wanted to find out. Suddenly, Anna stumbled, her foot catching on a loose stone. She fell, but without missing. A beat, she pushed herself back up, her face a mask of determination. He was about to reach out to help her when the sound of a crackling energy pulse shattered the air. His heart skipped. The ships weren't just coming after them, they were preparing to fire. "Anna!" he yelled, his voice hoarse with panic. "They're going to shoot us down!" She didn't need to hear him say it. She had already felt the threat. Without hesitating, she pulled him into a narrow alleyway between two buildings, ducking low to avoid the first pulse that flew past them, so close he could feel the heat. It was followed by a second, and then a third, each one growing more intense. Searing through the air with deadly precision, they sprinted through the maze of alleys, the sounds of the ships overhead vibrating through the stone and metal. The city was a labyrinth of shadows and abandoned buildings, but it felt more like a trap. Every corner they turned, every path they took, the sense of being hunted grew stronger. The ships were relentless, unyielding. They knew exactly where to find them. Anna's breath was coming in ragged gasps now, her face pale, but her eyes burned with an intensity that never wavered. She had to be exhausted, but there was no sign of slowing down. She pulled him along, her grip unshakable, her focus laser-sharp. "You're not going to make it, you know," she said suddenly, her voice quiet but somehow steady despite the chaos around them. It was a statement, not a question, and it sent a cold shiver down his spine. "What do you mean?" He glanced at her, his chest tightening with fear. She looked back at him, her eyes hardening with truth. "The path I'm taking you on, it's not a way out. It's a trap for you, for us." His blood ran cold. "A trap?" His mind raced. "Then why—" "Because they need to believe I'm the key," she interrupted, her gaze piercing through him. "They want me alive, but they also need to see that you're willing to fight for me, to make a choice. This chase? It's part of their test. They're watching us, every step we take, every breath we make." The realization hit him like a tidal wave. They weren't just being chased. This was a game. A sick, twisted game that someone or something was controlling. The stakes were higher than he could have imagined. The chase wasn't just about survival. It was about proving something. Proving they had what it took to make it to the end. And if they failed, the consequences were unthinkable. "You mean?" He could barely get the words out, his throat tight with the gravity of her revelation. "This whole thing, it's them testing us?" "Yes," Anna's voice softened, but the hard edge of truth remained. "They want to see if we're strong enough, if we're worthy of what's coming next." He wanted to scream. He wanted to tell her this was insane, that they should turn and fight back, but every corner they turned only led them deeper into the heart of the city. And those ships weren't giving up. They were playing for keeps. Another energy blast shot by them, missing by inches. This time, the blast left a scorch mark on the side of a nearby building, the heat from the blast searing the air. His heart pounded harder, and he could feel the sweat dripping down his back. Mixing with the cold terror that clung to his skin, Anna suddenly stopped in front of a tall, broken-down building, its metal doors barely hanging on their hinges. She glanced at him, her eyes meeting his in a look that spoke volumes. She wasn't just scared. She was determined. "This is it," she said quietly. "We have to go inside now." With a final burst of strength, they pushed through the door, slamming it shut behind them just as the next pulse of energy hit the side of the building. The building groaned under the force, but it held. Inside, the room was dark, the air heavy with dust. The walls were lined with old machinery, forgotten and rusted with time. But Anna was already moving, pulling him deeper into the shadows. She didn't stop, didn't hesitate. Every movement was deliberate. He followed her, heart pounding, barely able to keep up. But as the sound of the ships began to fade behind them, another thought began to gnaw at him. Where are we going? What is this place? He asked, trying to catch his breath. Anna's face was a mask of resolve as she pulled open a hidden hatch in the floor, revealing a narrow staircase leading underground. The only place they can't find us. The only place where we can regroup. and maybe, just maybe, fight back. He hesitated for a moment, his mind still spinning, but as he looked up at her face still strong, still unbroken, he knew one thing for sure. There was no turning back now. They were deep in it. And the chase wasn't over yet. This part drives the suspense to new heights, intensifying the chase while revealing a deeper, more sinister layer to the conflict. Anna's revelation about the chase being a test from the alien forces adds a new dimension to the story, propelling the characters forward into an uncertain and dangerous future. The urgency and mystery are palpable, keeping the readers on the edge of their seats. The underground corridor was cold, the walls damp with age, and the only sound was the echo of their hurried footsteps. As they descended deeper into the shadows, he felt an unsettling calmness settle over him. The chaos of the chase, the unrelenting sound of the alien ships, all seemed to fade away the further they went. It was as if the world above had ceased to exist, replaced by the cold, metallic silence of this hidden place. Anna led the way, her silhouette sharp against the dim light that flickered from the old lights embedded in the walls. He could barely keep up with her pace. She moved with a grace and certainty that unsettled him even more. She was no longer just the woman he loved. She had become something else, something he couldn't fully understand. He tried to push away the feeling gnawing at him, the feeling that no matter how hard he tried, no matter how desperately he clung to the hope that she was still the same, the truth was slipping further away with each passing moment. She had told him they were being tested, that the chase was a game, but he hadn't yet realized how deep this game ran. The stakes were more than just their survival. They were fighting for something far bigger than themselves, something they both might not be able to control. Finally, Anna stopped in front of an old, rusted door. She hesitated before pushing it open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Inside, the walls were lined with strange alien technology. Holographic screens floated in midair, flickering with data he couldn't understand. There were no windows, no doors to the outside world. It was a fortress of knowledge hidden from the world above, and it was here that he knew they would face the ultimate test. Anna turned to him, her expression unreadable. There was a weight in her eyes, a burden he had never seen before. For the first time since they started running, she seemed uncertain. Vulnerable, he stepped closer to her. Anna. What is this place? Why did we come here? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she glanced over her shoulder at the screens, her mind clearly elsewhere, calculating something he couldn't follow. Then, with a deep sigh, she faced him. "This is the last chance," she said, her voice low, almost to herself. "The last place where they won't be able to find us, not immediately anyway." His brow furrowed. "But we're not safe here. We're being hunted." "You said—" "I know what I said," she interrupted, her voice sharp with a sudden intensity. That made him flinch. "That this isn't about just surviving anymore. It never was. This is about what happens next." He stared at her, confusion swirling in his chest. What did she mean? What could possibly come after all this? Anna took a deep breath, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. "You need to make a choice now, and this will change everything." His heart skipped a beat. "A choice? What do you mean? What kind of choice?" She stepped closer to him, her hand brushing against his, a fleeting touch that sent a shock of warmth through him. "You've been with me through this, through everything. But now it's time to decide if you want to stay with me or walk away." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. What was she asking? How could she even ask him to make such a decision? She read the confusion on his face, and her expression softened, the hard edge of her earlier words fading into something more vulnerable. "It's not that simple," she said quietly. "You can't stay with me and pretend everything is normal. I can't go back to the life we had before. I've been changed in ways I can't undo. And they will always be looking for me. For us, there is no escaping that." He swallowed hard. He could feel the weight of her words, but he still didn't understand. "So, ... What? You want me to leave?" to walk away from everything. We've been through? No, her voice was firm now. I'm not asking you to leave, I'm asking you to make a choice. To understand what it means to be with me now and what it will cost. Because no matter what, you can't walk away. From this, not completely. The room around them seemed to close in, the walls pressing in on him as the gravity of her words settled deep in his chest. He had always thought of their relationship as a simple one. They were in love, they shared a life. They made plans for the future, but that was before. Before she died, before the aliens came, before this. What happens if I choose to stay? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Anna's gaze flickered, and for a brief moment, he saw something deep in her eyes, a vulnerability he hadn't seen before. It was fleeting, gone as quickly as it had appeared, but it was enough to make him feel as though the ground beneath him had shifted. If you stay, she said, her voice steady but tinged with sorrow, you'll be a part of something you can't fully understand. You'll be hunted too. You'll be involved in this war, whether you want to be or not. The Echelon will see us as a threat, and they will do everything in their power to take us. He looked at her, at the woman he once knew, and the woman standing before him now, a stranger in the skin of someone he loved. His heart screamed for the person she used to be, but his mind knew the truth. There was no going back. Whatever decision he made, it would change everything. Do you want me to fight for you? He asked, his voice shaking with the weight of his own fear. She didn't hesitate. I want you to fight for us, for humanity. Because the moment you walk away from this, there is no going back. There's no easy answer, no safe place to hide. But there is one thing I know for sure. If you choose to stay, it will be a fight like no other. And we might not survive it. His heart pounded in his chest as the truth sank in. This was it. This was the moment that would determine the rest of their lives. Whatever choice he made now, it would define who they were, who they would become. He looked into Anna's eyes, the decision weighing heavy on his soul. She was no longer just the woman he loved. She was a part of something far bigger. And now he had to decide if he was willing to join her, if he was willing to embrace a destiny that could change the course of everything. With a deep breath, he made his choice. There was no turning back now. This part adds emotional depth, shifting the focus from physical survival to the emotional and psychological consequences of staying with Anna. The decision isn't just about physical danger anymore. It's about their relationship, humanity's fate, and the irreversible impact of his choice. The stakes are raised, pulling the character and the reader into a truly life-altering moment. The weight of his decision hung in the air, palpable like a storm waiting to break. He had chosen to stay, chosen to stand with Anna despite everything that had changed, despite the alien forces hunting them, despite the mystery that surrounded her resurrection, and despite the unknown future that now loomed before them. He couldn't walk away. Not now. Anna's expression softened as she turned to him, her eyes a mixture of relief and a sadness too deep to explain. She stepped closer, the quiet hum of the hidden chamber around them feeling more like a heartbeat, echoing the tension in the room. We don't have much time, she whispered. We have to move. They will be coming soon. The urgency in her voice snapped him out of his daze. The air felt charged, like the calm before a thunderstorm. And despite the weight in his chest, he felt a new resolve harden inside him. There was no time for second-guessing. He couldn't change his mind now, and deep down, he knew that no matter the cost, he had made the right choice. Anna motioned for him to follow, leading him to a far corner of the room. As they stepped closer to the wall, a panel slid open, revealing an old metallic staircase that spiraled down into the unknown. Where does this lead? He asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Away from here, she said cryptically. To the last place where we can truly be safe, if only for a while. They descended the stairs in silence, the darkness swallowing them whole as the light from above faded into nothing. The further they went, the colder it became, and the deeper the sense of isolation grew. But as they reached the bottom of the staircase, Anna stopped suddenly, her eyes fixed on something in the distance. What is it? he asked, his voice sharp with concern. Anna's face was shadowed, her expression unreadable as she stared at the doorway before them, where flickering light spilled into the dark hallway. She looked back at him, her features tense. "They found us," she said, barely above a whisper. "We can't hide anymore. They know where we are." The sound of a distant thrum vibrated through the ground, and the unmistakable feeling of a ship's engines rumbling in the distance sent a shiver down his spine. His heart began to race as panic set in. They were too close. He could feel the imminent danger, like the slow, suffocating approach of a predator stalking its prey. "Anna," he began, his words barely escaping his throat, but she silenced him with a firm look. "We need to fight now," she said, her voice resolute. "It's not just about survival anymore. We have to make a stand." The tension in the air was thick, almost suffocating. His eyes met hers, and for the first time, he realized how much she had changed, not just physically, but in spirit. She had become something far more than the woman he once knew. She was something other. And now, she was asking him to become part of something much larger than either of them. She was asking him to fight for humanity, to join her in a battle against an alien force that had already taken too much. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice steady despite the chaos closing in around them. He didn't answer right away. His mind raced with thoughts of what could go wrong. The alien force, the stakes, the unknowns. But as he looked into Anna's eyes, the fierce determination that burned there, something inside him shifted. The decision had already been made. He nodded slowly, and for the first time in what felt like forever, he didn't feel the weight of uncertainty on his shoulders. He didn't feel the fear that had plagued him since the moment he stepped into this world. "I'm ready," he said, his voice firm. The sound of engines grew louder, closer. The air vibrated with the approach of their enemies. The time for hiding was over. Anna turned to face the door, her expression set in a steely resolve, as if this was the moment everything had been leading to. She stepped forward, her hand finding the lever beside the door. The moment she pulled it, the door groaned open, revealing the vast underground space beyond. And there, standing in the shadows, were the Echelon, the alien race that had changed. Anna, the force that had manipulated, controlled, and observed humanity for centuries. They were waiting, silent, their forms barely visible in the dim light, their presence overwhelming. "You finally made your choice," one of them spoke, his voice metallic and cold. "Now you will pay the price." But Anna didn't flinch. She stepped forward, standing tall beside him, her eyes blazing with unspoken power. "We don't fear you anymore." The tension in the room was suffocating. The alien presence seemed to stretch, to fill the space with an oppressive weight, as if it could crush them both in an instant. But Anna stood her ground, and something in him shifted again. He wasn't alone. Not anymore. As the alien figures took a step forward, he felt the cold, metallic hum of their technology surrounding them. But there was something else now. Something more human. Something within him had awakened. "We fight for our future," Anna said, her voice like fire. "We fight for humanity." The Echelon took another step closer, their cold, alien eyes staring at them. And then, without warning, everything exploded into motion. This ending builds on the decisions and emotional stakes the characters have faced, offering a tense showdown where everything they fought for is about to be tested. The cliffhanger leaves readers wondering whether they'll survive the battle, raising the stakes for what comes next. It emphasizes the shift from survival to fighting for a larger cause, marking a turning point in their journey.